All right. So, what are we doing tonight? I am hanging out down in our Discord if anybody wants to hop down in there with me. And I'm talking about. Actually, I need to fix the studio mode so this works correctly. There we go. Um, I'm going to be hanging out down there if anybody wants to hop down in our chat and practice their Linux interviews, interview type stuff. We can do that. I haven't done this in a while with everybody, but I figured I'd at least put a little session together for the guys that wanted to hop in there and do that with us. So we'll see if anybody's a taker. If not, we'll just hang out and talk shop. If anybody does hang out down here with us, we'll talk shop and talk about Linux, talk about what people are doing to try to get in the field, because it sounds like, it sounds like it's a pretty hard market out there for a lot of our guys. So I'm interested to see what the guys are doing for their interviews, how much they're hearing back from people. I have a whole bunch of interview questions for people that want to practice. You guys are welcome to join the Discord. Obviously, anybody can join that. And then I'm just hanging out down in the Linux chat for now. So if anybody wants to do that, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll just start on. I'll start checking around in the lab here a little bit while I'm waiting for people to show up. This is a little impromptu, so they might not have known that I was gonna do this. Actually, normally I set up a meeting, but I didn't do it this time, so they'll just get what they get, I guess. See if we can get that. Okay, don't see anything there. Let's do. That's fine. Seeing all the things that we expect, that's good. Let's do history. Check for Ansible. Let's bang 956. And we'll watch Ansible to make sure that all of our uptime's good. Reselection, how's it going? We are just hanging out right now, talking shop. And if anybody shows up in our Discord and wants to talk about getting in the industry and have me ask them interview questions, or just talk the state of the industry right now, we can do that. I'm a little insulated because I do a lot of different government projects and also larger scale high performance compute type stuff. So we can definitely talk to that if you guys want as well. I could do the whole presentation on HPC if nobody shows up. But we're here, and I'm available for people that want to work through this stuff. So that's what I'm doing. All I got to do tonight is have to get ready for some travel. I'm gonna be traveling over the weekend, and then I also have to do. I'm traveling this weekend, so I can get ready for that, and then make sure Ranger's fed. That's about the last things I got to do. The wife's out of town, so I'm just hanging out, working on this stuff. All right, all the nodes look like they're up, so that's good. Let's go check on some of our logging, make sure that the logging looks good. Looks like people are failing in as root, and that makes sense because then they get locked out forever. That's fine. You can't get in as root on my box, so it doesn't really matter. Although, just for fun, we could jump over here. We got to refresh this camera. Actually, we might have to refresh all of these because we've been off this network all day. I've been off the network. Yeah, okay. So there's Ranger. It's still bright outside right now. Let's go back over here. There we go. So now we can sit around and watch people log in and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, reselection. The Linux course, I thought the Linux course came out really well. We're almost done with the second run through of it. And yeah, I think people have learned a lot in there. I think there's been a lot of back and forth and that kind of stuff. I also think that it's very attainable for most people to do the security course as well. I don't know when we're going to run the security course again. We only had like 5 people finish it this last time, so that to me means there's not a whole lot of interest in it. So maybe I'm going to hold off on that one a little bit. And then we're just going to see if anybody hops down in the Discord with me. And then we'll do a little bit of a Discord chat, see if people can talk on stream, and I typically I have some questions that I ask. Well, I have questions that I ask interviewees. Obviously, I always have those, but I also have other questions that I'll just ask guests in general. So yeah, we'll see if anybody shows up. Anybody wants to handle some of the technical questions that I have. I mean, I guess I could even ask the questions here if people want to think through them and type it out. It's a little harder for people to type stuff back, you know. Your cadence of talking and typing are different, right? Like, and plus, you know, it's sometimes good to hear yourself say things and hear how things are said, because that's how your interview format's going to be, right? So anybody that's trying to do an interview has to think about those things for sure. So there's that. All right, well, I am going to hang out and do that. I will also then, I guess while I'm still sitting here, I'm just going to clean up the environment some more too. So don't mind me while I work on, let's see. All right, so we've got this nodes.conf for today's date now. So if I go make any changes to this, if I go mess around and make a new kernel or anything, or a new, looks like I got plenty of space to make some new nodes. What we could do for fun while we're kind of hanging out and waiting for people is we could start working on bringing in some of these different types of nodes that are available out there. That could be a fun little project to start. I just come over here and go to Werewolf node images, and maybe we've got Rocky 9. Maybe one that we want to use is Alma 9. People tend to seem to want Alma 9, so we're going to go over here and we can just grab it just like this, and we can bring that container image in and build it into our werewolf definitions, and then we'll be able to validate it. We'll be able to see if we can boot it on one of these nodes. We can even put it on the Kafka node if we want, because nobody's using the Kafka node for anything, and Kafka is defined, so we can use that node for this. Or we just make a new node. We'll just make an Alma 1 node. That'll be fine. We're kind of sitting here hanging out and waiting for people to show up. I didn't like blast this out to the server, so people are just going to find it when they find it, you know. Find out that I'm hanging out down there talking. Okay. All right. See what happens here. If you guys got any questions, if you want to talk about anything going on in the industry, let me know. I'm pretty insulated from a lot of different things, but for the most part, I am, available for the technical side of things. I can help you figure out what kind of technical things you guys want to do and get better at for sure. That's an area that I excel in. All right, let's see. Let's keep going on here. All right, so. WWCTL. Container list. Oh, image list is the new way. So now we got this Alma 9 container, right? So let's just do, and let's go look at, like, as we were making these containers, as we were building them and as we were making them, we've got all these things, and we were setting them, and then we were actually adding nodes here. So I can do like a WWCTL node add, and we'll say Alma 1, and we're going to give an IP adder, but we need to figure out what our current schema is, right? Like how is our current addressing scheme working? And probably the easiest way to do that is to come over here, and we'll see that we've got all the Rocky, are 51 through 69, and then the hammers are 151 through 159. So maybe oh wait, yeah, 151. No, that's definitely out of order. That's through 175. Yep. So we could start our next one for these Alma boxes. We could start it really anywhere. What do we say we start it at? Let's go. Make sure there's no other ones that are in any of these things that I would think. Let's start them at we'll start them at 200. No, we have 201s. We'll start them at 210. Does that sound good? That's fair. So IP adder equals 192.168.200.210. That'll be the first one. And we'll, we're not going to set any of these other things special for now. We're just going to go ahead and make that Alma node for now, right? And when we do wwctl node list -a for Alma 1, we should now see those values for the Alma Linux system. By the way, I can start these spinning again. Now we see all those and it looks good. But the Alma container by default is this Rocky Linux lab. We need to set it over to the Alma. So we're going to say wwctl node set container Alma Linux, right? So what was the Alma Linux? It was like Alma Linux 9. Where's that? Should be right up here. We could always check it again. So container list right there. So it was Alma Linux -9. wwctl. We're just going to steal it shamefully from ourselves. Container set, right? Alma Linux 9, and then we're going to set it to against Alma 1, right? Do we want to modify the container? Yes. Do we want to go check that container? Yes. Now it's for Alma Linux 9. We need to do a wctl container build and a overlay build. And for Alma 1, we only need it for the 1, right? And then what we should be able to do theoretically is if we have discoverable is true, so that means the next server that we build in our home lab, the next server that I build over here that looks like one of those is going to get, look at Ranger over here, it's going to get that configuration. It's going to become Alma. So let's go over here. Let's reconnect to these. Oh, come on. Super annoying. It's because I always connect this VPN and it's locking my systems to everything. So, Paul, how's it going? Enzo Bear, how's it going? I'm just hanging out down in the Discord too if anybody wants to talk with me. In case anybody wants to get on and maybe discuss systems. So we've got a here's a Rocky template, right? And we could actually spin this up, do a new VM wizard with it, and give it, instead of the Rocky name, we're going to give Alma 1, right? And we can leave all this because it's going to be a network boot, so we don't care about any of that. We'll place it on this server. Boom. Got the space for it. Number of CPUs, that's fine. We don't need this box to be super beefy to start. We just need to get it to boot. We can give it, for this guy, we won't add the extra discs because I don't think there's any reason for them. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. We'll leave them all there. So we'll say next. And then we're going to leave it on the lab internal. That's exactly what we want. And then we'll finish it and we'll start this box up automatically. Now, if this box boots correctly, as I expect it to, then what we should be able to see over here as it comes up is the it's going to be discoverable over here. We'll see Alma come up and it'll grab its configuration the first time it comes up. Oh, Enzo Bear, you joined if you weren't so tired. No, man, if you're busy, if you worked all day, that's fine. I worked all day too. I'm just kind of hanging out today though. I'm just kind of chilling. This will build some other stuff going on. We could get away from those if we didn't want to see them. But let's give this a second to build that box up. Server should build right here. It'll probably pop up at the top of this for Alma, because it'll be alphabetical, right? So, yeah, you guys are welcome, though, to hop in there and talk. Here comes Alma. It's going to come up. Here's the console. We're going to watch the console boot. But over here, we should see that this box isn't... We have some kind of overlay problem there. That's fine. Let's come down here, and let's see if he comes up. And if he finds out that as he DHCPs on the network, does he come up as the new Alma box? There he is. There he is. He's Alma. And his container is going to go grab that provisioned container for Alma Linux 9. Do you guys see that? Right there. So he's going to grab all that. He's going to pull down everything he needs to hopefully boot. And then it looks like he's got a problem. So what did he get? He got his container image, and then there was an error. Let me see what the error was over here. Not found. Varlib werewolf provision container Alma Linux -9. Did I spell that wrong? Alma Linux -9. Says it's right there. It's very possible that that's the problem. I don't think we ever built the container, even though it had been downloaded and loaded into Werewolf. I don't think we ever built that container. There we go. So then this box is going to have to reboot again, but he's going to fail at least one more time right now. So yeah, it's creating it for the first time right now. So this is going to fail the kernel. Well, or maybe it got to it in time and it's not going to fail, but I don't think that's... No, it did get to the container and the kernel. But now it's done, so this may need one more reboot over here. We'll see. To come up cleanly in an Alma Linux box that we just downloaded literally from the internet, right? As a container. Funnel it down into our system, get our build correct, and then we could tool, if we needed to, we could tool all 45, 46 nodes in the containers over to Alma tonight. If I needed to tool them all over, I could do that. Yeah, I think it's like 45. Oh yeah, that's going super slow, but then over here, if I do wctl, what's the other commands real quick? It's configure, and I can go look at all of them. What I need to configure is all. And you say, why do you need to configure all? Because I need to rebuild that new host file, and that host file has to have right, Alma in there, because that wasn't going to be there, and it wasn't going to be pushed to all the different nodes and all that kind of stuff. So now that's all done, and now my system should theoretically come up, be able to be connected. The keys should be in it. Everything will be built and overlaid correctly for like this node never existed in my environment before. You guys literally just saw me turn it on for the first time. It should come up, and I should be able to SSH right into it by name. So I should be able to say SSH Alma 1, and I should be able to get right into it. And then if I wanted to jump in on the console, and if I had a console server on Werewolf, I could jump directly into it via the console. Now I have a console server over here, so I can just get into the console here. But I really think I'm going to need to reboot it again anyways, but we're just going to let it ride and see. We'll just hang out here while we're waiting for people to show up if anybody wants to get in the Discord with me. Talk shop, do all that kind of good stuff. Talk about the state of the industry for people. Yep. All right, so 68, 70%, we're just going to let it ride. We're going to see if it boots. Now, it may have boot problems with the, there could be all kinds of things that could be wrong with it, but let's see if it comes up. We've bypassed the last problem. We've gotten past not having a container built, in the system. Now that we've got the container built, we're getting much further, and then we need to figure out if something breaks, what the next thing is, right? This is our process of going through this kind of stuff, right? Although when we're off work, we don't want it to feel like work, right? But it's still good to do this stuff and see it kind of work. All right. %92%. Move this over here while we're hanging out. You guys can see our books and our other stuff that we got going on in the environment. Right. You guys can go in and see what's going on in there. All right. Well, wait, did it reboot again? No? It looks like it came up, has the runtime overlay, has that stuff. Booting the kernel. Thinks it can start the kernel at least. I didn't do any special commands to the kernel. So if it is going to start, it should be able to do it right there. We also have an IP address for it. So I should be able to ping Alma when Alma 1 when Alma 1 is going to start responding if it's going to. It's very possible that it just spins up and breaks. But then that's the next thing we would fix, right? This is it. What's the next thing that's not working in our cluster? What's the next thing that's not working as we do our build process, right? So come on, server. Almost looks like it froze right here. And that's very possible, because it's very possible that I need to fix the way the container's working. Fix thing. I like to fail quickly too. Like if this is not going to work, I want to break it and try it again, or because possibly this image that we had was not completely built, so we may want to reboot it just to at least test that, right? So let's go ahead and reboot it again, because then it'll come up completely clean. We were still building this as we booted it, so there's that. There's maybe some there's some system parameters that I did not set. I have not tried the new bootp stuff, no. In any of the 10s, no, not the Rel 10 or the Rocky 10, no. I haven't played with it. Did they go back to bootp? Because that's a step back from DHCP, right? So I'm interested if they did go back to bootp, but no, I haven't played with any of that new stuff. Nope. We've been staying very much on the stable. Like, see, look, the box found that's Alma 1. It's got the right container. We've been staying very much on the more stable Rel 9. Boot. I don't even know what bootc is. If that's a different protocol, I don't even know what that is yet. I have not had time to spend time with it or read or any of that. No. So I can't speak. Oh, bootable containers. No, I didn't. I haven't seen that either. But it replaces the initram FS. That does sound interesting. That's probably not far off from what this is doing, right? Because this is booting a container into, and it's loading it. The system is pulling it via TFTP after it iPXE boots, but it is pulling its container down and then overlaying it as its own system, right? That's why my systems are stateless. That's why they can boot up over and over again as the same node, no matter what, because they're pulling an immutable container down each time, So they can never change what they pull down. They're TFTP read only, Yeah, that seems interesting though. So endpoint management E10 is moving to CoreOS and bootc. Okay. Yeah, man, technology is changing, but no, I haven't played with it. It's probably got some really fantastic, types of ways that it works, and I think there's a lot of stuff that people could probably get in there and use. Let me go up here. Yep. Okay. Checking out the Discord while we're hanging out here. All right. Huts, what are you saying? What's the way to store business data then? Worm only pen? Um, so the way I build servers, if it's I have had two major things I've done in my career from like a server standpoint. One is like the enterprise server for like AAA and like big corporations and stuff, and I've run a lot of those. And in those types of situations, I try to make the server as ephemeral as possible, meaning like I don't really care what's on the server. Everything that's business data oriented should be connected in via like NFS or a NAS or a SAN or something, and business data is never stored on the machine, right? But then the other type of data or the other type of stuff that I mostly work on nowadays is high performance compute systems where we for sure don't store any of the data on the individual nodes because they're completely ephemeral. So yeah, I never store business data on an individual machine unless, I mean, I guess unless it was some like database that needed it, but almost universally we're going to be replicating that off in real time because we can't be spending a lot of time with what was I thinking? Yeah. If a box does get catastrophically destroyed, we still want to be able to get that data back. Then, yeah, yeah. My rebuilds of my servers are very fast because they're simply the rebuild, and then we reconnect things to it. We reconnect stuff to the servers, like the little stuff that's stuck to them remember in the movie The Matrix, where people are getting out and the robots have them all hooked up to stuff. That's basically what it's like. People are just stuck in that. This is also like I'm interested with this container image. Like I don't know if this is bigger than other ones, but this is a tremendously longer. I mean, we're normally booting in about 3 minutes, about 180 seconds. I'd say this is closer to 5. I'd have to watch it again if I really wanted to capture the time. But this is a much longer download of that container than it normally is. And then the box has, if it's init RAM FS, it might not even have. That could be another problem. It might not have enough RAM on this box to boot this image. Might need a bigger amount of RAM. But mainly, let's see where the error is. If we get an error, then we can start to try to track it down and figure out what our next steps are here to get this. We're adding this image into our cluster. We would like to see, how it boots, what it looks like, all that kind of stuff. But it would be something to definitely note that this takes much longer than like a Rocky box or a Hammer box does in our environment. Those are based on the Rocky OS that we have. Rocky 9, yeah. All right, so now that's interesting that it's doing the system and the runtime overlay right there and then trying to boot. So it's starting to boot and that's failing it might not even be failing its boot. It might just be going really slow. In fact, one thing that we could watch over here is performance, right? And see, is the CPU performance high? That's not very high. That's about 25%. That's not terrible. Down in our console, does the kernel actually start? Monkey Man, you said the volume might be a little low. That's possible. I am in another application, so it's possible that my microphone, because I am in Discord as well right now, so it is possible that my microphone's a little low. So that crashed. That did not come up. So, let's go ahead and power him down. Just force shut him down. And we did not get a good error out of that, but possibly we have over here. It looks like it's pulled everything with no problems pulling. So it's very possible then that it's as it starts up, and it's also very possible that it's running out of resources. So let's change this system up a little bit with it off, right? It's got to be off for us to do this. Let's give it 4 vCPUs, and let's give it just a little bit more. How much RAM did we give it? What do I not see? He is definitely turned off right now, right? There's the boot order if we cared. We could put network first, right? Because it's always going to boot off the network first. I don't know why I don't see his memory options. Is this box all the way off? Yeah. Huh. Oh, there it is. Apparently, it's only gonna let us fix it over there. We'll leave him. We'll give him 8 gigs of RAM for now because we haven't changed anything in the container. So let's just make the container a little more space, and let's go ahead and give him the old startup and see. Yeah, I mean, I can yell a little bit into the microphone too, but I was hoping people would hop down the Discord and talk with me, and then we could have little conversations around the the industry and what we're kind of doing and what people are working on and that kind of stuff. All right, let's watch this boot up. We know it's going to get the Alma 1. We know that part's good. It does have differing settings between this and what we have in Rocky now, but I haven't set those because I wanted to see if the defaults would work. But I do have some things that I can go and do that kind of stuff, right? To go and work through. That's fine. Yeah, if you can't make it, it's okay. You guys don't have to. You don't have to feel like you have to do it. But you guys are definitely, like I always tell you guys, if you do need to practice for interviews or you do need to get ready, unfortunately, you do have to do interviews in front of people, right? So sometimes it is good to break that. Again, I'm not trying to make anybody come down here. I'm just saying for people that are getting ready to do interviews, maybe you've been doing this for a while and you're like, okay, I think I'm ready to go take some interviews. Let's see what kind of questions people will give us. I can definitely help you with the type of questions they're going to give you. And I can also definitely help you with a lot of times when I put it on the calendar, people will show up. I didn't bother with it this time. We just kind of were winging it tonight, so we'll see if anybody shows up. So, see if anybody shows up, wants to talk down in the Discord. Otherwise, I'm just building boxes and playing with the network and checking on Ranger Dog. Ranger's gone. I also got to go check on him, make sure he's had food. I'm leaving tomorrow, and my brother Tom's going to come over and check on him. And then Tommy's going to come check on him tomorrow morning and make sure he has food and water. And then me and the wife will both be back Sunday night. So he'll just be here about 24 hours by himself in the nice cool house. He's fine. He can get in and out and he can do all that stuff, but he'll have food and water and he'll be happy as a dog, that doesn't really have to guard anything anymore, So, all right. I feel like this is not, that's taken so long. That's much longer than it normally takes to download one of these. So a couple things we can do while we're waiting. What? Let's see what they all are. Oh, Alma Linux one's only 929 megs. It's not even as big as the other ones. So that's not it. It's not the size here. If this doesn't start again though, we're gonna go look at this. We'll look at this. Right, and we'll look at what's different between them. So Rocky 1 has iPixie with Dracket, and this has iPixie with default, so that's different. And I would have to go build the Dracket startup, so that would be something I'd have to build myself. Root is also initramfs, so that would be fine. All the other things are defaults, so theoretically everything should be able to boot between these. I'm Runtime overlays, generic. We haven't changed any of that. And at RAMFS, that's all fine. But the iPixie, I think, is defaulted to, and I can actually go check that. So if we, let's just view Etsy werewolf nodes.conf. And his iPix template is Racket, but that's that's for him. What is his default? Default for the discoverable. It must be down somewhere else. I don't have that default, guys. Ah. Wait a minute. So here's the default for those things. Huh. So we don't have a default defined for that. So I think the default, if nothing else is there, might be grub, and we don't have grub in there. Yeah, he's rebooting again. He's failing. Huh. That's a pickle. Alright, well. That's all fine. He's gotten his... Like, he's always going to have that information now, so that's fine. Well. We won't get any logs off of him because he's dying at the console, so there's literally no logs on this box. Now, if we had a console server over here, we'd be able to use it as a logging function, but we're literally not getting any logs from this box as it builds. So we're kind of shooting in the dark at some of the things that are common. And let's go ahead and stop this guy from booting. So let's go ahead and, let's go ahead and force shutdown on him because he's not going to boot. And we're going to come over here and we're going to say www.ctl container exec into, we're going to exec into Alma Linux 9, and we're going to use bin bash as our shell. And now we're down in the Alma Linux container, right? So we are in a chroot jail, or a chroot, yeah, it is a jail technically, of that environment, right? And now we can go in here and we can look at stuff. We can see how this system's set up. So we could cd to, actually let's do this. Let's say more Etsy grub. Nope, they don't have a grub. Okay, so that's good. We can do, what other things would help us with the boot? They're not going to have a boot in here, yeah. What are they going to have in here? All of this, opt, proc, root, temp. Okay. Let's do this. See if grub is anywhere on it. It's not. See if Dracon's anywhere on there. There it is. Okay. Let's go with see what kernel it's using. All right. By the way, all these things I would probably go put in my notes somewhere, you know, if I was building this for real. I'm just kind of messing around on here, so whether or not I figure this out right now is less of a concern to me, right? I'm just kind of playing around on here. But okay, we see all that. We see its kernel. We can compare that to how it was booted over here. Pulled all that. It started up. Let's see. We might have to do this fix and Might have to look it up to be able to boot this correctly, because normally if your werewolf box, the server that's running werewolf for you, if he's got grub, then the containers inside can use grub as well. But as a limitation, if you don't use grub on your werewolf server, you can't use grub down in the containers, right? You have to build it out special. So I've gone around that by using Drakit, or I don't know how you say it, but I've always just called it Drakit. And then that tells the container how to start once it gets on the node. And that looks like where it's failing over here, by the way, is when it does the last thing and calls the image. Actually, you know what? We could check that one more time just to make sure that that image is the one that we're seeing. So let's see when this thing starts if it's calling the right image, because that's very possible. What's the problem? And then we can set that. We can set that kernel command line if we need to. Everything's configurable over here if we need to. Also, if I don't want to change anything in the image, I'll say false and then exit, and it won't change any of the configurations. I don't have to go build the image then. But I want to see when it comes up, what's the kernel? Is the kernel that's trying to call the same kernel that we have over here? Because if it's not, then we got a problem, right? Here's the basic kernel that we're running, and the kernel command line has to call that correctly. So it's very possible that those are not in alignment, and I have to go fix that. That's always something that could happen. So what's everybody else doing? I mean, it's Friday, right? Like normally when I hop on Friday, guys, it's like our just chill stream. I don't work super hard. So if you guys haven't noticed, I'm not working super hard right now. But yeah, what's everybody working on? I'm going up to Colorado for the weekend. I'll be in Colorado Springs the next 2 days. Probably training a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then one of my buddies is turning 40, so it's kind of his big. We're doing a big 40th for him, you know. You got to go stand the ceremony on some of that stuff when your friends have big birthdays like that. So going up there. Also, it's kind of like a housewarming thing for him as well. Oh, speaking of that, I gotta fill out this card. Housewarming card that the wife gave me to give them. So I've got that out. Now I just got to go find my pen. I think my pen's in my notebook. There it is. All right. How is this thing? Oh man, that is still the longest download of any of these things right here. While we're testing that, we could also be, just for fun, coming over here and testing one of these other ones. You'll see, they got a tumbleweed. So if we wanted Seuss in our environment, and Leap is also Seuss. If we wanted to run straight Debian, right? Is Tumbleweed the newer version? Let's go see. That's a year old. As is, how old is Leap? Also a year old, so they haven't changed this any. By the way, we can look at the container file. We can see how they're building it, right? All the stuff that's in there. If we needed to build it separately. Let's see. I actually don't know which of these is newer. Tumbleweed is newer than Leap. Alright, we'll go with the newer one. Let's go grab Tumbleweed. And it doesn't look like they're going to give us that, so we're just going to press up a whole bunch. And we're just going to import it like this. So we'll go. Help if I could type. And we'll just use Tumbleweed. Make sure that's the right path. That might be. We'll see. There it is. All right. Got the right one. Let's see. Let's Haas, you're doing some System D stuff. Nice. System D is kind of the new standard. When I say new, I mean it's probably been around 10 years now, but it's probably been the standard on systems I've been working on for the last 5 years or so, maybe a little longer. So that's pretty good. Nice. Hackplank, you've been trying to put together an Ansible playbook for web cert enrollment. Every time you do the OpenSSL passes between renewals, you forget the incantations I had to do last time. Trying to store it in a playbook. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. You can do a fair amount with those modules, for sure. Let's see if we got this. Right. Let's build out the tumbleweed container. Make sure there's no errors here. And it's possible that tumbleweed will start as well. And we'll do an overlay build of all this stuff here too, just for fun. But yeah, we're hanging out. By the way, you guys can do exclamation mark ask. No, actually, that might not work in this one. I think that exclamation mark ask only works if I'm in my other screen, I think. So what happens is it pops up and it just says, I can answer that for money. Which is an old Rick and Morty joke that's pretty good. So anything I can't do with the module, I should be able to do. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, yep, if you can still do it with item potency, do it that way. Let's set, I have a bunch of the nodes that are outside of our shell here. So if we, for some of you guys using Hammer, if we were to cd to var Hammer, chroot Hammer, is that right? I think that was the name you guys picked for it. We go to bin. Yeah, we only go up to Hammer 10. So technically, I can test on any of my other Hammer servers if I wanted to right now. So let's just say that I did a, if I did just like Control-Shift-R, right, and did container. Oops, wait, am I in the wrong? Oh, I'm in the wrong box. Hold on. Control-Shift-R here. And Control-Shift-R. Keep going back. And we can just set the container right here, right, for tumbleweed to Hammer 25. Right, we can just set the container. Yeah, we want to modify the nodes. And then we'll do wwctl overlay build on Hammer 25. And then let that build, and then we just do it like this. Boom, there. Let that guy reboot too, and then we'll just keep spinning and working on the other stuff, which I suspect is not necessarily the fix. Yeah, this thing's still just spinning. Oh, that was super loud. I don't even know what that was. Hold on. Hello, mateys. How's it going? Gotta make some automation. Hammer call Thor. Yep. Hold on. That was the loudest freaking email I think I've ever gotten. Oh, there it is. Okay. It was one of my DeVry emails. All right. Nothing to do there right now. I'm not working over there right now. We can come down here. We're in a totally different system over here. Hammer 25 will reboot and we can watch him come up, and we'll see if that thing comes up clean, right? He's gonna have a different container image now. Maybe that one works out of the box a little better. Who knows? We'll see. We'll still noodle around on the other one on the Alma Linux and get that running, right? And then I'll just have to keep track of what we did in the nodes.conf. Now all the things we fix are somewhere in the system. Failure disk not bootable, connection timed out. So his DHCP did not work. So I think my Werewolf server in general how is he doing? No, is he having some kind of... Is he having some kind of consternation around not responding to more than one DHCP at a time? It's, well, there shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, Alma Linux is off. So Hammer 25 should be able to boot up and come up. Let's force a reboot on him. Make him reboot. Super weird. Control Byte, how's it going? We are not working too hard. It's Friday afternoon, right? And I'm down in the Discord if anybody wants to hop down the Discord and talk shop, talk about the industry, doing whatever. Figured I'd do that, you know, see how that works for people. Over on the YouTube side, is that Adidas? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are just kind of hanging out. I didn't say Adidas. I said Adidas. Whatever. I don't know how to say that, and apparently my computer thinks I'm talking about shoes, so I can't help you there. Why is this going right to that? That's... There's Alma. There's our one tumbleweed. Okay. Why is that doing... Can my system not... Adidas Bach. Yeah. Oh, this thing gets the worst. Yeah. This thing can't... I was doing Bach last night and trying to say body of knowledge, and it kept saying Bach like the composer. What other ones has it done? There was one... I was saying how, like, when you work on a government system, you always need somebody to call, like somebody that builds the system, some neck to wring. And this thing always thinks yeah. Oh, it said it right there that time. It called it a nectar ring. So we made a bunch of those in AI and put them up on the Discord. That was kind of funny. Yeah, Control Byte if you want to. We're just going to kind of... Actually, Control Byte if you wanted to, you can come and tell people what you're going to talk about in the... Are you talking? Let's see. I got to check. Let me go pop up here real quick. You guys don't think I'm really actually sitting in my Discord. I am. I want to find who are my people that are talking. So up here in conferences, I can't keep everybody straight, so I apologize if I'm talking about the wrong person. If we go to conferences, right? I have it up here somewhere. I have a list of it elsewhere too, but who's coming to talk? Yeah, Control Byte's coming to talk. DevSecOps without buzzwords, or an operations for developers. So some topic like that, he's going to come talk. So this is our free kind of every anniversary we do a big meeting and everybody kind of hangs out with us, and I bring in a bunch of different people to talk. I have a talk that I always do there called Why Engineering. Well, I say always, but I did it last year. It's going to be a lot like, I don't want to say more fun this year, but it's going to be even more why engineering topics this year, because I'm just going to keep adding to them and making that discussion better and better as we kind of go. So yeah. But that's what I'm doing. I'm hanging out down there. I need to... These dates and times are not right. I got to fix them. There's not that big of a break, so I got to fix all that crap. That's just my initial discussion on it or whatever. All right. Control Byte, can you try talking? Oh, actually, hold on. Let me.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I can hear you. I wonder if the people can hear you, though. People, can you hear another person now? If not, it'll just sound like I'm talking to myself, I guess.
Let me actually unmute the screen. I hear myself, though.
Oh, so you do hear yourself, but is that in the Discord or is that through that? I think, let's see, anybody, can you guys hear another person's voice now?
Howdy, howdy.
They probably can. They hear him. Reselection can hear you. Good, good. Yeah, I'm hoping a bunch of people come down. We'll just have like a hangout. Um, Control by you're in the industry, right? Like I seem to recall you've been in the industry.
It sounds like the audio is not coming out so clear, but yes, I work as a platform engineer now, so yeah, that's why
Okay.
I might need to update the title of the speech because platform engineering seems to be the newest buzzword in the in the industry.
The new thing. Okay, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey, Monkey Man's here in a robotic voice. Monkey Man, you could always jump down the Discord and hear him directly too. That's always welcome. So here's what we could do. Control by. I mean, I don't know if you want to be interviewed a little bit. I do have questions for when I have guests, or if any of the more junior guys pop in, I would do interviews with them. That was kind of like the theme of today. But if you want to tell us a little bit about being a tech and being a platform engineer, if you want to talk to the people, I think they'd like to hear it.
Sure. And I'll start a philosophical rant first because I know one of the I remember when I first joined Prolog back in was it 2020 I believe. Uh, it was a great place and it still is a great place for a lot of people getting into the industry. And this is where my rant begins. AI, use it cautiously, and I say this more to the general public because one of the big trends I've been seeing, aside from just the rise of AI, is it is killing engineers' ability to do critical thinking in a lot of cases, and it's becoming a handicap. Uh, I can talk to this from the interview side of things, where people are handicapped, like they must use ChatGPT to answer a question, and they lost the ability to come to conclusions on their own. And I see this particularly with like younger students who are using it to get through school. I'm actually curious on your take.
I'm very much in the agreement with you on that. 100%, because I deal with that with students all the time. My students are not allowed to turn in, and it's funny because I loosened it for our sessions a lot. You probably see, like I say, you can do AI for these posts, but I don't want people to rely on the AI. I want the AI to be like a junior search function for them and stuff. But I do not want people thinking with it. Like it doesn't do the thinking well. It doesn't understand.
Yep, and and its confidence is also very misdirecting in that if you're someone who's like, let's say a junior or someone who lacks experience, the natural tendency is to blindly trust it, which is a dangerous situation to be in.
I agree 100%. In fact, so then there's another part of this too that I was saying on stream the other day that some people never even thought of, is that like if you didn't train the model, you guys don't know what that model's doing on the back end. You have to watch for it to talk out, yeah, all kinds of stuff. Like just
It just also reminds me of just that internet theory. Like, right, I think it's 80% or 90% of the internet. They say based on this theory is that the internet is fake or like already produced by like bots producing bots. The AI is trained on. Put it this way: Stack Overflow isn't always right. Google isn't always right.
Oh,
and it's trained
100%.
on this same data. So it's sort of this garbage in, garbage out pipeline.
100%. I agree with that 100%. So here's what I'll do. Can you guys hear him okay? I'm not hearing anybody complaining. Normally people complain very quickly, so I'm not hearing anybody complaining. Um, Control by, I'll ask you some basic questions, but you can also kind of go anywhere you want with your prompts. Here's my first one for a basic role, or for my guests. Like I've asked my wife these questions. What is your basic role? That's the first one. If you want to just give, you don't have to tell us where you're at, but industry role, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Do platform engineering for an aerospace startup. Before that, I was in the large defense corporation world.
Okay. Okay.
Doing DevOps work. Yep.
Okay. DevOps all the way down to Kubernetes and SRE stuff, or were you more Linuxy?
Yeah, and I guess I'll preface this by saying even though my title had DevOps in it, I'm against the title of being like a DevOps engineer. It's DevOps is more about like the process, the culture, the ideas. And that's my more personal opinion.
Okay.
Whereas with your day-to-day role as a DevOps person, you could be spending, let's say, a month doing a lot of Kubernetes work. The next month you can be building out CI/CD pipelines. The following month you can be like, you're wearing many hats. You can be an SRE just putting out fires all day. At times you're doing all three of those at once. Ultimately, you're an engineer. That's what like this whole chat. Everyone who's voluntarily joining and watching these sessions, you're an engineer. You're going to learn and figure out how to solve problems.
Yep.
That is your value added. You're not being hired because of your title. You're being hired because you're solving problems that produce value.
Yep. And I have a buddy that's an economist, and what he likes to say is, he says, Scott, I find that I'm going to misquote him. I'll get the quote from him exactly this weekend because it's his birthday party that I'm going up to Colorado for. But he says something to the effect of, Scott, we either solve very like general questions that people don't want to solve, or we solve very like constrained questions that other people can't solve. And I've said, and I told him, I was like, that's really interesting because as an economist, he falls into the same like level of expertise a lot of us engineers do, where like I'm literally called on because nobody can be bothered to learn all this Linux stuff, or nobody can be bothered to go learn this tool Werewolf. Even if they could, they're not going to. So I have to be the one to solve this stuff. like, so.
That's
Yeah.
the opposite of something I often talk about with, in any kind of IT customer service-ish role, is people generally want one of two things. They want this thing that's it's nothing really, I'm sure, and it's rewire the universe, right? Make this software that you didn't create do something that they need, not what it's meant to do. Or they come to you hat in hand and they're very, I'm sure it's a real problem and all that, and it's a huge favor, I'd really appreciate it. And you say, yeah, okay, we're done. I finished it, because it was one command, right? Usually what you end up with.
I think that's fair. I actually thought to, Kevin, when you hopped in, I thought to just go down the line with the guys that were here. I don't know if you want to tell the guys what you do as like a basic role and that kind of stuff. I was going to ask Zorgal
Yeah,
too if he wants to talk, but you can go first, Kevin.
Because it's different than what you do, but it's still related. So I do platform support for, I'm going to try and, let's see, can I walk the line? Well, I can mention the product. IBM has a product that is rebranding now to DevOps Deploy, but I call it the tail end of the CI/CD pipeline. It's the D.
Okay.
So it's distribution. So all of our in-house developers for a global company, when they write software, the control point for it being deployed only to production, when it's deployed successfully to test and all that, is this UCD or DevOps deploy, depending on which version.
So it would be
And
accurate to
so
say
that-
you give your customers the D. I'm kidding.
Only on occasion. Today wasn't a great day. There was a lot of Timmy can't read problems.
Oh, yeah. I saw your post on that. That's funny.
Yeah, but so we're hosted on Linux. It's Java app, and then there's Java agents, and so we deal with my agent is offline. This is about 2,300 online at any given time. And then there's the infrastructure itself. We had patching rebooted 4 out of 5 servers that are the platform, and so it was very broken.
Yes.
And then we got that resolved, but this is interesting, especially for folks, this topic here, for looking for jobs and all.
For sure.
We are in the process of transitioning from contract labor offshore to hired employees offshore.
Okay.
So it's some of the same people that we've been working with, because experience with a product is worth something, but worth more is that general curiosity and how do you troubleshoot, and do you just try to figure it out at least, as opposed to follow the checklist, which is entirely too common with contract houses.
Absolutely. Hey, so let me ask this. Did the audio get better for some of you guys, by the way, right there? I just turned up the desktop audio. Actually, let me turn off this music too. Hold on. I got this music playing in the background.
I don't hear any music, but your audio got louder.
Okay. So, real quick, we'll go down to Zorgal too, if he doesn't mind talking. And remember, guys, too, this is also going up on Twitch and YouTube, so you don't have to get super specific about what you do or anything. I mean, Kevin, I'm sure you didn't share anything you didn't want to there, but I'm just reminding you guys.
Right. Yep.
Zorgal, what's your base role, and what are you doing? What roles have you had over time, if you don't mind telling everybody? You're kind of pivoting, right?
Yeah, so kind of pivoting by necessity, I guess. I've been in the OT or operational technology side of the realms, I guess, over the years. I guess since the late '90s, and basically that's industrial control systems, and I deal a lot with hardware controllers, PLCs, a few different protocols than what people are normally dealing with. But network management, configuring everything to talk, and all of the Windows and Linux server side of things. I more deal with uh, things like integrity, right, versus confidentiality. Deal with the parts of the puzzle in the same ways as everyone else, but yeah, definitely to solve people's problems.
Okay.
Right, that's kind of what I'm trying to do is delve a little bit more into the sysadmin side, just as basic tool knowledge,
Okay.
just a tool for my work belt.
So, by the way, Zorgal, this leads into my next major question, but I'm going to start with Control Byte. And Control Byte, so you've been doing DevOps and then platform engineering now. And this is the question I really like asking guys that have been doing this for a while. But Zorgal, since you're kind of pivoting, this will be good for you. But Control Byte, what training have you had? And what do you think has impacted your career the most? Either advice or training you've done that has impacted your career the most to be successful here?
I'll say two direct things are jumping out immediately. One of them is saying yes when everyone else is saying no, similar to what you alluded to when you're saying, hey, I'll jump into werewolf. I was the person when I was getting started in my career, I would say yes to everything to a point where it was probably too much, and I was taking on a lot of things, and there was no concept of work-life balance. But from a learning perspective, just throwing yourself into the deep end. Just like saying, I said yes to taking on a Kubernetes project before I barely knew what Kubernetes was. That's one example. And
Can I
by
interject?
forcing yourself in, yes, of course.
Just one thing. I just want to say one thing about that. When we're in a meeting and it's like time to go live and fix something in front of like 20 people, I'm one of the guys that will always grab the wheel and drive. And I think people have always been like, dude, this guy doesn't mind showing everybody his screen. But anyways, go ahead, Control Byte. Sorry, please continue.
Absolutely. And I'll say I do the same thing now. I love sharing my screen whenever we have the opportunity, just because ignore the fact that, okay, let's say you don't even know anything. But take that and take a positive spin on that and say, hey, hopefully one of the viewers has a little trick or tip that they can point out. And all of a sudden, the only reason you know how to improve your workflow is because you're willing to put yourself out there and share.
Yep. I've often said that I have learned so much more with other engineers looking over my shoulder or looking over their shoulder. In the last 22 years, probably I have learned more that way than any other way. In fact, I'll show you guys a good one. Sorry, continue. I'm just real quick. I'm doing, ping. We were sitting on a call one day and there was like 30 of us, and one of the guys just did something like that. We were all waiting. We're like, we got to wait about a minute or 10 minutes or something. And he just did that, and we just all kept talking. And a bunch of us were like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen that works really well. We could just sit here and talk and we'll see when it goes, you know? And it's like, that's so dumb. Like, I never even, and I would have never learned that if I hadn't looked over somebody's shoulder. But back to you, Control Byte. What's the training or thing that you've done that you think would be useful for some of these other guys to work through?
And then the second thing is be part of a community like Prolog. If you're just involved in, I can say it's like my first large job was at a large scale corporation, defense contractor, and you're sort of limited to what you can see there. So unless you're actively searching for ways outside of your 9 to 5 for different opportunities within the field and you're trying to expand your skill set, it's not going to just land on your doorstep. So put yourself out there, be part of a community, go to meetups, watch conferences. That's how you stay like aware of what's going on in the field. And I'll also say, because I in the last year pivoted to the startup world, especially early career, you wear a lot more hats in the startup and you take on a lot more responsibility. So it is a sort of like a injection, like propels your career a lot more, propels your career forward in that you'll see a lot more that you wouldn't necessarily have those same opportunities if you're in a typical bureaucratic corporation.
Okay. And then actually, no,
Yeah,
I'm gonna put the questions over here just so you guys can see them. I'll do the same general question to you next, Kevin. Sorry, what training have you had? What impacted your career the most?
sure. I had a very specific training, hands-on technical was way back, VMS performance tuning, but so many of the principles in how do you troubleshoot and things you look at that haven't changed, right? There's a scheduler. It's an operating system. It has a scheduler. How's that look? So the way you approach all that, like, busy CPUs aren't bad. Processor queuing is horrible.
That is 100%
Um,
true. I agree with that. Yeah, big time.
yeah. As long as it's bouncing, it's not idle for a long time. It's not processes waiting, right?
Yep.
I would quite a few years ago went through the ITIL practitioner training, and that just got me better at knowing what the process should be,
Mm-hmm.
so that you figure out how a company implements it. So when you need to get things done, you can sit down and write the stupid change request that'll get approved. You don't have to like it, but you understand how to make it work for you.
I agree with that
Um,
100%. In fact, I talk about that like if I draw two people on a wave, and one person's on the surfboard on top of the wave, and the other guy's like down in the wave getting rolled over, and I'm like, which one do
yep.
you guys prefer to be? Like, and when I learn process management, that's what I think of. I'd rather be the guy surfing on top of this, making my life easier, than the guy that's down there that's always hating making change requests and stuff. So,
Yeah, I'm not going to like it, but I
yep,
know how to make the system be done so that I can move on to the next thing, which is, next best thing to liking it.
absolutely. So Zorgo, what do you think's what training have you had, or what's something that's been impacting your career lately?
Well, lately it's been a lot of the training I've been getting at Prolog. I started out in industrial instrumentation. It's back in the day. That was before IT was really a career path that people were talking about in the early '90s, late '90s. But it had a lot to do with making instrumentation talk to computer systems in one way or the other. Um, but finding those people who give away knowledge, kind of like you do, all throughout my career, I've just always looked out for those folks and just gravitated towards them and been ready to catch when they're giving it away. And people soon realize that, who's this guy hanging around? He's always in this circle, and then you just kind of like automatically become a resource, and you start getting associated with those things, and you get exposed to different pieces and parts of the puzzles that other people are trying to put together. So, it's not always about saying yes, but you don't say no. You don't have to say yes and let everybody hear, but you got to stay late sometimes, and you're not getting paid. And you got to hang around when there's a particular problem that you find interesting, and sometimes it hurts when you got to get up early in the morning, and but hey, you put all those together. At the end of the day, just being around other like-minded people that you find solving interesting problems. That's the best training advice you can give. I can give to anyone. Don't pass up an opportunity that's just standing, facing you off in the road. It's like, here, I'm here, take me.
Absolutely. So then our next ones is up at the top with Control Byte again. We'll loop Enzo in here in a second, but what are your daily duties? What do you think's the breakdown of your tasks you do? Are you mostly supporting things? Are you mostly building new things? Like what do you think your breakdown of tasks you have are?
Oh, it's hard to put a number to it. It's whoever shouts the loudest. That's the joke answer. But in reality, it's just both being in a startup where it's a lot more of a chaotic industry, as well as just the nature of people who are on the ops side. Um, a lot of times you are doing things from like patching and building out infrastructure as code, setting up observability solutions, building out CI/CD pipelines. And I guess for me, ultimately, it's like, hey, what am I doing to enable developers to produce value in the most efficient, streamlined way possible. So,
Yep. I think that's a big one. Kevin, you want to tell us a little bit about what you think your daily duties breakdowns are?
Oh, it's kind of similar, even though I'm not in the super fast moving dynamic. I'm in a very old and pretty big company, but it's ticket queue for things that are broken, ticket queue for scheduled work, because we deploy software. It's one of the other products, right? So you got a handful of servers or 100 that need the latest JRE installed. Yep, we'll take care of it. It'll be all configured by the company standard, et cetera. So it's routine, but you got to watch the queue and things like that. That's life. And then in parallel, we got, I don't know, maybe a third of our time, although more this upcoming quarter, building out a new environment that's a copy of our production and then upgrade it to the new version that we want to upgrade production to, so that when we do it, we minimize the problems. The last time we did it was a little over a year ago, and it shocked the guys who had done the previous upgrade, but we were on at 9 a.m. one Saturday and off by noon because we had done it in dev like 3 different times, and we had found the little things. So, and my teammates were very happy that I was obnoxious and said, "The hell do you mean you don't have a dev server?" when I joined the team. We'll fix that. So least interruption to your customers, that's good. Plus, I mean, we do some automation kind of work, and sometimes we're not creating it, but it's how do we smooth out a piece of process so that, in our case, developers can deploy and it goes faster than the old system, which involved a bunch of emails to remind them to accept the task, to do the change that the machine was going to do once they clicked OK. That's dumb. Let's make a computer do that job too. So we're always trying to find those things.
Okay. Zorgal, what do you think your daily duties are? What's your breakdown?
So lately, I've been being exposed to some new technologies with advanced process controls. So it's not really AI, but it's kind of some external solutions we use for, just say, big math computations for controlling, industrial processes and stuff. But these are Linux-based platforms that run externally to the system because it's of course, it's an air-gapped system, right? But we configure these through OPC tunnels over to through firewalls and running virtualized in other places. So just having that, I've been kind of getting exposed to all those different things, configuring tunnels, opening up ports and firewalls, and setting up Linux servers on both ends to catch and receive, and really diverse group of problems. That I've been able to use a lot of the things I've learned in the last year or two with Linux to implement. So these are just the latest and greatest things I've been able to play with, besides the normal daily administration tasks, which aren't as glamorous as the rest of you guys get to do, because my system's not patched or updated very often. We kind of like to stay in the past as long as we can.
Don't wish the excitement of patching events on yourself.
Yeah, it's one of the things we tried not to do, right?
I mean, we want patching to happen. We don't want it to be exciting.
You guys ever see my meme on patching? I made this years ago because my team, all we did was patch. Where's it at? It's here. Posted this up. Yeah. Patching systems for 24 straight hours. Tonight we celebrate with patching. For tomorrow we patch. Well, that's our Linux team just fucking killing everybody, all the vulnerabilities. But then we'll have more, and then we'll do, that's a Rick and Morty thing too for people. That's, anyways, let me get that out of the way, go back over here.
Yeah, because my recent excitement in patching was because the patching team is applying patches, and then because depending on what the patch is, right, sometimes it does take a reboot, so they bounce it. And they bounced 4 out of 5 of our infrastructure servers, which was enough to break everything. The problem is they're doing 2,000 of those overnight, of those machines at a time. And can they take, hey, notify us that you're going to reboot them because just in case, warn our customers, schedule an outage, etc. Nope, they just bounce them. Yep. I understand how they get there, but it's crazy because I know we're not the only ones they broke.
Yep. Yeah, I used to have to deconflict that through about 200 teams, and what we ended up doing was we adopted, because ITIL, like you mentioned, I think ITIL's so good for beginners, and I think it's so good for seasoned people as well, but I think it's really good for beginners that want to get into operations and working on Linux.
Yep. It's also frustrating because it's like so process heavy.
Oh, it is.
But
yep.
You implement a form of that at least sticks to the spirit, and it gives you something as a frame of reference, like, what's a valid change or something like that.
Absolutely. So let's jump up. We'll go to the next question. What tools do you guys use daily? We'll start with Control Byte at the top. What are the tools that you use? What do you think people should be learning and spending time in? I tell you guys all the time, Linux is like a base tool, but then we have to know other things a lot of times, unless we're just a pure Linux engineer. But what are you using? What are your tools? What are your note taking? What is all that stuff?
So many tools. I think also just a lot of my workloads living in like a cloud native landscape space. Every day there's a new tool. But typically
they're all
I try
in the browser, aren't they?
Not necessarily. I live in the command line for probably 90% of my day. Or sorry, in a terminal.
Well, that's good.
So
sorry,
yeah, I'd say
I diverted you.
no worries. Cloud native landscape is referring to, if you ever saw the chart, it's just a complete mess. Scott's shown it on screen a couple times, but just pure chaos. And with like the whole Kubernetes containerization, all of those tools I use on a daily basis. Typically editor, just living in Vim, Linux shell scripts. So I'd say if you have like good Linux command line, like know the tooling well, you can go very far with it. At the same time, I'll also say, and this more applies to programming languages, and it's a quote Scott brings up also, like if the only tool you have is a hammer, the famous quote, you tend to see every problem as a nail. So don't get biased based on, hey, I used this tool in the past, so let me just try to like work with it again now. If there's a better tool to solve the problem, learn the tool, read the docs. Just constantly adapt. Note taking, I typically just use like Markdown and check it into Git. You have pretty nice rendering in all the major version providers, and just having it with Git as well gives you that version control. So you can sort of like compare your thought process and see, hey, 1 month ago I thought like this. Today I think like this. Probably 1 month from now I'll think differently. You can see that growth, and you can see, hey, what new information came that led to you change your thought process or your tools or how you tackle a problem. So ultimately, use the tool that gets the job done, and
fair enough.
Take a adaptive mindset.
How much do you think you have to explain or visualize to others? Like how much drawing do you do as an engineer? I'm not trying to challenge anybody here. It's just, do you have to explain what you're doing often to other teams or people? Because, how do I reach these kids type stuff,
Occasionally I'll do like I'm assuming we're going through both of these questions and then we'll cycle to the next person, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
I'm making them up as we go.
Not too often these days, but when you're doing some architectural work or like system design, you will often do like high level diagrams and showcase it to other people in the team, get buy-in. But it's good to have just that back and forth conversation, to also just getting yourself into a position where you have to showcase it and make your thoughts like concrete and visible helps a lot. It's like why they always say like start writing, just because it forces you to internalize your thought process.
Yep. I actually do like that. Like, and if you guys have ever done any formal brainstorming, one of the first things they tell you in any formal brainstorming session is literally we're going to write down any idea you say, even if it's stupid. They don't say stupid, but you know, because that's counterproductive or whatever. But I'll call it stupid. If you're like, hey Scott, we're going to build a bunch of servers out, and I'm like, well, let's get some Arby's first, right? Oh, okay, maybe they wouldn't write that down. But my point is, like, in brainstorming, the idea is to get stuff on the paper because a blank page is terrible to try to start from. So, good point there. Kevin, what do you use daily? What project operational work, and then how do you explain and visualize stuff?
So, the implementation of the ITSM stuff for things like incidents, changes, requests, you can pick probably the 800-pound gorilla, and you'd probably be right. But it's all that. It's yes, at the command line whenever I can, but because we have a mixed environment, it's, do you do it in PowerShell, shell? And the answer is yes, you do both, if it's at all possible. But I have to bounce back and forth because the way we control things is, and you could use other tools, but we have Windows laptops, so it's relatively easy to do PowerShell scripts for things like, you know, what groups am I in that have this in the name, because that's what I need to get access granted to this machine or the like. So you bounce back and forth, and don't try as much as I'd rather work on a Linux machine. PowerShell is not that bad once you get a little bit of a start, because the concepts are all the same, right? If it's shell on a Linux or PowerShell for Windows, the logic is what that matters.
Yeah, I'm fine with PowerShell. Yeah, I actually have had to use that quite a few times in my career.
Yep, and I always, daily, I'm doing something, and it's faster and easier to do it with a little snippet of say PowerShell than to figure out GUI for who's in a group or something stupid.
Like I don't lead with it, but when I was like the platform engineering lead for AAA, I ran 5,000 servers that were both Linux and Windows. So I used Ansible to control everything, but Ansible was calling PowerShell into Windows. So it was triggering that. So I tell you guys all the time, I am technology agnostic. I want to get to the right answer. However, though, I do think most of the right answers are in Linux and not Windows. but that is a bias of mine. But I will use PowerShell to touch anything if I have to. So I think this is probably blasphemous, but I think it looks a lot like JavaScript. In my mind, it works similar to it, and it was fine. So I haven't had any problems using it.
There's some similarities. And then I sit in VS Code most of the day.
Okay.
As in the window, because with the terminal I can connect to things. There's a SQL Server add-on, so I can do a quick database query. Like I might need to look at, how often a certain thing happened, and I have a little snippet that'll get me the answer. I just change the variable for the date range I need and go. Sitting in a terminal on a Linux machine a lot. Our infrastructure runs on Linux, and about 2/3 of our agents. So, there's always something there.
Yeah. Well, and people probably know back in what would that have been? That would have been early 2019. IBM bought Red Hat. So they, I imagine internally.
5 years now. So might have been late 19, but it's been all of 5 years.
I think it was 19 because I went to Summit that year right before I left AAA, and I remember that the two keynote speakers were the Microsoft CEO, whoever it was that took over for Gates, and the who was the other CEO speaker that was there was I remember thinking these are the two least the two least. So sorry. So at Red Hat Summit was the IBM guy and Microsoft CEO. So those were the two CEOs that talked. Was that IBM and Microsoft? Yeah.
Yep.
And I
get.
Go ahead.
Okay. I get a lot of attention from Red Hat, even though I'm not in the OS team, because they're here in town. So um, I was at yesterday. They run the users group here, and that has some downsides, but at least it keeps it happening.
Which probably has
Or
some nice swag, right?
not too bad. I didn't get anything this week, but I had a sandwich on them, and
Oh,
what it was is it was the speed round of the Red Hat Summit for local folks, right? What did they talk about? What were the highlights? And in an hour.
okay.
But that's pretty good. I was going to mention though, conferences and stuff were mentioned. I got to put in my plug. All Things Open is here where I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, in October.
Hold on, let me see that. Is that going to be online? Are they going to do?
Yes, they do a bunch of online sessions, and
Oh.
then there's recordings. But it's like last year was about 5,000 attendees, so it's not massive, but there's enough to be good.
I don't know if you mind putting that up in the Discord. We got a conferences channel, or I mean,
Yeah,
I
I've
can.
put it there at least once, but it's been
Okay.
a while.
Yeah. So
So,
people need to be refreshed every now and then. So if you don't mind,
and this is, yeah, that it's a very low cost. I think right now the early bird tickets are going for $100. So it's not like the ones where you go to ServiceNow's conference to work with their product and it's $1,200 ticket, right? It's not like that.
Yeah.
So a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
small vendors there, and yeah.
You ever tried to go to any of like the LFCS or Cloud Native? Those are all expensive conferences. I'm like, man, your companies better be paying for you guys to go to that stuff.
Many years ago, I went to the big Microsoft one when it was in Atlanta,
Okay.
and been to the big ServiceNow one probably 7 years ago, I think. And there was like 12,000 people. It was in Orlando, and it was craziness.
I think the Red Hat one. We were in Boston, man, and that was
Yep.
Boston. Jeez, such a
Yeah.
just you want to go. You want to go
Very
4 miles. It's literally 26 turns to get 4 miles.
Oh yeah, walk. You'll be much better off.
Yeah. We actually did walk some. We walked over to like a Boston. That's where I found out I don't like something that everybody else likes. There's a dessert that literally every person on planet Earth likes. That's from Boston that I do not like.
Boston cream pie, they would call it.
No, it's actually not. It's not Boston cream pie. It's the a cannoli. I don't like cannolis, man. I don't know what the hell it is about
That's
them.
from Boston? I didn't think it was because I grew up near there.
Ah,
But
well, I don't know if
cannolis are very
cannolis are
good in
specifically
Boston.
Boston. That's just there was a really
Yeah,
good like
they're
Italian
very
place.
good though. They have a really good Italian neighborhood.
Yep, and we went
I'm
to this
looking
one
at
that was
your.
famous, and I was not impressed.
Yep,
So
yep. So you also asked how often do you ever explain or visualize. So I have less drawing, more writing, but it's my habit that, like writing shell and PowerShell scripts, if I have to figure something out, I take notes because it's just that addendum to the end. So when I say I'm in VS Code, it's because because I have a Markdown tab open for whatever it is I'm working on, and I'll do a one-page README or how to, right? In the old days, they would call that.
yep.
And the key things for how we do what's unique here about how you do this thing that's well documented. So here's a pointer to the documentation. Here's the 6 or 8 things you need to know. And that should help, but somebody's got to read them.
All right. Zorgal, what's your daily project operational work? And when I say project versus operational, I mean like operational is like run things, keep the lights on. Project is like new stuff, deployment stuff, putting new stuff into your environment, that kind of stuff, right?
So yeah, project. So my most recent projects have been Linux based, and most of on the OT side, most of the OT security stuff is kind of a mix of Windows and Linux, heavier on the Linux side, but there's still a lot of Windows environments there. So it does help to know a little bit about all the different platforms. Just you don't get to specialize in any one particular one. I just don't spend enough time at the command line to be as proficient PowerShell as I do on the Linux side. So, I mean, on the IT side, we're a big Windows shop, so all the familiar tools. But I do like uh, using Obsidian outside of that ecosystem, just because I'm on so many different platforms and systems day to day that I don't really have there's nothing that kind of feels like home. And it's like you always say, I get on a server, uh, I need to better launch Vim from scratch without any kind of fine tuning, personalized settings. And that's where I find myself often. So there's not really a whole lot there that I delve into that's out the ordinary. As far as drawing, Visio on the Microsoft ecosystem, but I did a big presentation yesterday, and I pulled out the old go-to Excalidraw and put it smack dab in the middle of my PowerPoint. So it's just an easy thing to do, and I use a plugin for Obsidian, and I'm able to use that on a lot of different machines. It synchronizes in the background, so Excalidraw just kind of works for me. So I've only been using that since I've been hanging around Prolog. So it's just so simple. It's kind of hard to come up with an excuse not to use it.
The corporate reasoning often would be because if you don't bring it in-house, we are concerned about even that data.
Right. Yeah, in that ecosystem. Yeah, you are correct. But yeah, that's about all of my experience on that front.
Hey, what's up, guys? Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Enzo. You want to catch up a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself with these questions here?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to ask me some of the ones that have gone by and go over.
How about this? What's your basic role? What roles have you had over time, and what training have you had, and what's probably impacted your career the most so far?
The roles I have been most customer facing. I had a customer facing job, my first job, and then after that I landed a help desk job at a school district down in Austin. I was just basically working with ThinkPads, kind of support resetting passwords, and now I work at AWS on the infrastructure delivery side, and I think that one of the most impactful places, to be honest, has been this community, for the fact of having other people with the same mindset that I have of studying and showing up every day. I think that's something that has impacted me so far. And you'd be surprised by you mentioned yesterday in your stream that studying is like going to the gym. You have to do a little bit every day. If you show up like Sunday and you do like 8 hours of studying, it's not going to be as productive as studying a little bit every day. So that has affected my career the most.
Well, that's a big one. That is, that's coming from a guy who's been a college professor for a long time and watched a lot of people like cram, and then they leave the class and they literally don't know anything. And it's like, well, that was a fun 8 weeks, but maybe we could have done that a little better, So that's me trying to make stuff stick, right? So that's good. What are your daily duties? What are you doing now? What do you think a percentage of your tasks and you're pretty mobile at work, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm right now. I work on the PDX west side of the AWS areas, AZs basically, and my job right now, 90% of the time, in the data center inside working with the computers. I'm part of the infrastructure delivery team, so basically we walked into data centers, they're empty, like data halls, they're basically empty. the racks that we install are the very first racks to ever touch that data center, because the company is growing so much, they need a specific team for that. So I would say that 90% of the time is hands-on working, and 10% of the time is meeting, just going over small details, because each project that they assign us have some slight variations. That's how my work is distributed at the moment.
Okay. Okay. What tools do you use daily? You mostly do, so it sounds like you get to do a lot of new project stuff because almost all your stuff's deploys. But what do you do? Like, what tools do you use? What productivity tools on your systems do you use? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, most of the tools that we use actually are internal. Like 99% of them, even the Amazon Linux we use on the devices, everything is proprietary by Amazon.
Okay.
A lot of hardwares that come in that we work with are hardware modified for our needs. So there isn't much like open sourceness on my job. Unfortunately, I wish there was a little bit more. And when it comes to projects, we are really dealing with many different projects, and a lot of things are new projects because all the sites they're building out. Since my team is the first team to touch, like we're groundbreaking all those data centers. They're trying out new basically network topologies and seeing like what works and what doesn't work, and we are like trying out so many things. Like there's like 4 different projects. I don't know how much I can say or what can I say or not. But there are so many, like,
Definitely don't go
things
too
move
far
quick
in.
there.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Sure they do. That's kind of cool. So you get to see some of the fast, rapid deploys and probably tear downs of some of that stuff as well.
Oh yeah. I see some of the decommissioning happening. Some of the old racks being out and the new ones coming in. I would say that right now, what they're dealing most with, it's like space in the galleries. They're trying to minimize the most amount of waste space. Like they're trying to reduce waste space.
Yep.
That way, they can just cram more racks in, more server racks in, and they can increase productivity. So that's most of the projects that I'm doing is just minimizing waste, cutting costs, seeing how can we optimize. A lot of automation as well. That's one thing that a lot of the tools that we use is for automation, and they actually look up to people that can use these tools. So if you can leverage any tool that you have in hand to increase productivity, it's really looked for. Like in the manager sides, they really happy to see, they're whenever doing new talent hiring, that's what they are basically happy to hear about.
Now, I want you to think about this before you answer. You do not have to answer this, right? But in the data center, would you say you are mostly air cooled, or are you guys going heavily liquid cooled? By the way, if that's proprietary, do not tell me that. But I will talk about it on the government side here in a minute. But what can you say anything about that?
Yeah, so we have some cooling sites and we have some air sites. The cooling site, the air cooling sites usually are not related to any machine learning, nothing along those lines.
Yep.
But when it comes to those new racks, those new machine learning is, we're looking at water coolers, and
Yep.
on the PDX side, we don't have a lot because it's not necessary. But I do know down south, kind of Texas, Arizona, even there might be more than what we have here.
So I work in supercomputing, right? The conference that mostly governs my industry is supercomputing. I call it high performance compute because that's what we do on top of it, but it's supercomputers is what we build, right? And if you look at the top 500, there was a shift about 2020 is really there's like a pivot in the industry to where we have, for density reasons and the amount of cores we're going to stick into these systems, almost the entire industry is liquid cooled now. So that's why I asked you that, because I know that other industries are not in that type of thing, but you guys do a lot more data processing than maybe others. But we do, like, because I work, for NOAA, and we do the national the climate and environment predictions. We do what comes out and actually goes on your TV every day from millions and millions of sensors around the country and the world, really. But we provide like all the weather data for the planet, and like those systems have to be very, very dense with CPU and that. In fact, I can tell you like the average individual node is 512 cores with 2 terabytes of RAM. And that is on a node that's probably not much bigger than most people's laptops. And you say, damn it, yeah, it's compressed, pressurized liquid going through that. Yeah, those things it's wild. Yeah. Anyway, so that's good. Where were we at? So this one we got to start back up at the top. So Control Byte, we're back to you. And by the way, guys, remember, don't. This was originally written for my wife and then my friend Jared when they came. But we like to joke around. What is your work meeting nap ratio? And what is the meeting cadence? What type of meetings do you guys do? Do you do a stand up every morning? What are you working through, Control Byte? What are your standard meetings that you have as an engineer?
I thought meetings were for nap time. That's just we have daily stand up every day. But one of the things I recently got into the habit of doing, and I think it's a pretty powerful thing, is the idea like this pair programming approach, where, especially considering I'm a remote worker, just hopping on a like Slack huddle or getting two brains working on the same problem is a lot more efficient. And again, it's like what we alluded to earlier: have someone like shoulder surf you. You never know what type of little piece of input they can have that can help the project or program. And I do apologize, I have a hard stop at the bottom of the hour. So
that's also something that you say in meetings.
That's true.
That's funny. I have a hard stop. Hey,
Yes,
real quick. Go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, you hear that all the time.
Yep, I have a hard stop. So real quick, if you just had to list them out, not and Control By obviously don't tell us anything proprietary, but you do a daily stand up. Do you have like a skip level once a week, or do you meet with your manager once every month? Like what, if you don't mind telling anybody, what types of things like that do you do, or are you?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you do often enough to mention as an engineer?
So I'll refer to my previous role more, just because current role less to talk about, but previous role, daily stand-ups, weekly or bi-weekly retrospectives. About once a month you'll have like these cross-team sync meetings as well, so your team is aware of what's going on with the other team. Let's say once a quarter you'll have like all the business groups together, sharing information. And every so often, and again, with some of these cases, you had, I think, one of my managers, he wanted to meet on like a bi-weekly basis. Another manager was doing it once a month. So yeah, sort of play it by ear. And yeah, it's part of the life. Not always fun, but sometimes they're valuable. So might as well just chug along.
Okay, good. Enzo, I'm going to go to you next just because you're the next one down on my screen there. What is your cadence of meetings? I imagine you guys have like a huddle every morning, kind of almost like a construction crew, right?
Well, we actually have a one-on-ones with managers once a month.
Okay.
My team is really working bees, but we don't really have like huddle ups. Kind of each agent, you would say, works on their project individually. So we gather once a month only.
Okay. Interesting. Probably no naps in the data center. It's too loud.
No, maybe in the office area, yes.
What how much? And by the way, this is an interesting thing, and some people don't think about it if they haven't been in a data center. But I'm going to ask you just because I know you're a data center guy. How much have you had to learn about OSHA, and how much have you had to learn about like chemical? What's that? The MDS? What is material? MSDSs, right?
MSDS.
Material safety data sheets. How much have you had to learn about that?
Well, I had some training to understand what it's present on site, but that is not really what my team is responsible. That would be the data center operations team.
Okay.
But I had some understanding of, hey, this is what you're going to be around, and if you see this sign, that's dangerous chemicals, stay away from there.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, we work with pressurized systems that if something cuts and sprays on you, you need to know what to do. Because it's not water in there, guys. It's chemicals. Water is okay at pulling heat out of a system, but some chemicals do better. So, okay, good, good. Let's go down to Kevin. What's your meeting cadence? What meetings do you run into the most, or do you run any?
So we have a daily stand up because we're really attempting to be DevOpsy, but
Yep.
we have a lot of tickets, so it's challenging. But we do a daily stand up, which is very so run, and I was acting Scrum Master for a while, and it's hard when you spend 3/4 of your day, a lot of days, on just incoming tickets to plan. But we do that. We do quarterly PI planning, so you plan out the next quarter of the year, and that's a 2-day adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have weekly one-on-one with my direct manager, but since he sits right behind me, we sometimes call it off because it's like, I've been working direct with you for like 2 hours. I've had enough. And we have, what is it? I think officially it's monthly, but often there's one slid in the middle of a skip level with my director.
Okay. And
And
will you
there's
tell everybody what a skip
weekly
level
team
is?
meetings more.
We,
Yeah, you skip one level of management, so you go up to your second level manager.
and it's
Um,
supposed to be candid. Like you tell them what's going
Yeah.
on because you're the foot soldier on the ground, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And like my manager has a skip level with our VP,
Yep.
so
It's
yeah,
similar
it's
to
an
like a
opportunity
commander's
to-
open door policy in the military. Although you
Yeah.
never ever want to
Yep.
use the open door policy in the military. Just please trust me. I was an infantry guy. Don't do it. Um,
Yeah, it's just like don't volunteer for anything.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The sergeant comes out and says, "I need 2 people for an assignment," and you say, "For what?" And he goes, "Now I need 1 person for the
Now I
assignment."
need one.
Yep, now I only need the one.
Yeah.
Zorgal, what's your meeting
Um,
schedules look like? And do you get any naps?
Oh, yeah. So my day starts out pretty early, around 4, and we we work alternating shifts, so I do get the opportunity to work all night sometimes. But I'm in the position of, supervision slash management. So being a people leader, we've got a kind of diverse area of responsibility. But yeah, I do get my good work streaks done kind of in the morning. And then we do have stand-ups with the frontline crew, and then a little period of work, and then we do a meeting with all the different uh, engineering area managers. Just different tiers of management meet, come together, and then alternating days of bringing in other areas into that meeting. So we get a pulse on like the laboratory group and all their analysis equipment problems they're having, and they'll come into the meeting. They have their day to come in and have input, and of course, all the quality assurance guys. They come in one day, and then after that, bit of period of work. Do get in couple little speed naps in the morning, and then of course, you got to take your after lunch siesta as a requirement, especially after you get so many years of service. It's kind of written into the whole scope of the job, right?
Yeah, you've been doing that for a while. You said, right?
Yeah, since the '90s. So,
Okay.
and then data centers. Man, I don't know. There's something I've always kind of wanted to do some study on it, but there's something about the frequency of hum in a data center
Oh,
just puts me to sleep. You know,
100%.
if it's not too loud, which which they make ear protection for, you can get a good
Yep.
nap in the right data center.
That's 100% true. Yep. Yeah, data centers. Yeah, and they're almost built like casinos. There's no clocks anywhere in them. You just gotta work through until you're done with whatever you're doing.
Yeah, not many people come looking for you either, so
True. Very true.
you can get lost. If I'm gonna hide something, it's gonna be under the floor in a data center somewhere.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's actually funny when you're above the floor, cool. When you're below the floor, cool. But when you're in between, like if you ever take one of those tiles up, there's this pressure change, and it's just a tremendous
yeah.
flow of air at you, and that can actually get quite cold. But if you're in one side or the other, it's fine. But if you get in between there where the pressure changes, just a torrent of wind in one direction or the other. It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, I actually had a system go out last week, and it when the AC went out in the building, the temperature rose to it was like 10 minutes. It went from low 70s, say 71 degrees, up to 95 in the room, and it just kept climbing. And it was funny because lift a floor tile, and it's cool. Yeah, so like all those that system is built, and that's where the coldest air is. So thermodynamics of data centers is a whole field in itself,
Oh yeah,
right?
100%. I tell
It's
people there's
very,
it's not just the heat too. It's also we don't even use just normal air conditioners. We use things called air handlers because you need to keep the humidity in that room. If the humidity
right.
goes high, you start to risk rusting electrical components. If the humidity goes
Right.
low, static discharge is higher. So you actually keep humidity between, I think it's about 40 and 80%, or maybe it's 40 and 60% typically. So you keep it lower. Maybe it's even lower than that. But anyways, yeah, you keep it at the. I have to look that up. I haven't looked that up in a while, but yeah.
Yeah, we're down in the south. We don't have that issue with humidity, so we don't have to control it as tightly. But
Mhm.
so we don't have that like.
Oh, you have
Especially
an
where
issue.
you
It's
guys
just the opposite of where he
are.
is.
Right,
Oh,
right.
it is super
Y'all,
dry.
y'all are
Yeah,
y'all are super dry, right? Y'all have
Phoenix so dry.
slapping doorknobs and stuff in the wintertime. We don't have that issue. So
Look at Ranger. You guys see Ranger there? Look at
yeah,
him.
he's
He is guarding my fireplace. It's kind of his fireplace, I guess.
Up for the job.
That dog, man. He's a good dog.
enough of that.
All right,
Enough of
let's
that.
keep going. So Zorgal, you're at the bottom. I'm gonna pop back up to Enzo again, and Enzo, what would you say? And I know we have the exact opposite spectrum. Enzo just started this type of work 3 months ago or so, maybe.
Oof.
And then
Yeah,
Kevin and Zorgal have
3
been doing
months.
it for a million years between them. I'm sorry, guys, but Enzo, what's something interesting about your role?
1988.
Oh wow. Enzo, I don't even know if Enzo was around in '88, but Enzo, what's something interesting
No.
about your role?
Something interesting about my role. Uh, I think the scale
Wow.
and the pace. I think that things change so quick, and things are always changing. I think that one is my favorite thing about my role.
And you guys are hiring,
Just
right? Like last I heard from you, that you guys had a lot of roles open, but people have to be there, obviously, on site, right?
yes, we are. I can drop it in the chat some of the postings as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're hiring. They need people.
Absolutely, but they got to be up in your region, your area, because they're physically in a data
Yeah,
center. There's no remote work.
rural
Well,
Oregon.
there is
No
remote work
remote work.
into some data centers, but not his data center. So, you said Oregon, right?
Nope. Yeah, rural Oregon, Virginia, Arizona. I think they also have some positions opening. So it's very fun, honestly.
Yeah, he went across country
Someone
for it, guys.
someone asked on Discord if I still have to do 5 or 6 interviews. No, you only need to do 4,
All right,
4 to 3.
fair.
That's not that bad.
It's not bad at all. Okay, good. We'll go down to Kevin next. What's something interesting about your role that people might not know?
That might not know. You learn that, there's patterns, and, I didn't know anything about these Java apps really when I took this spot, but
Java.
it's not that different.
Yep.
There's other things a lot similar. There's some details to learn, and, because of that, I was able to, because I couldn't do 30 years of just handle tickets or just anything, but I cycled through different kind of things from, all the inbound projects at a bank and specking out what they need for server type capacity and all, and that was fun for a while and automate the build, and now it's not, right? It's a different thing, but there's a lot of pattern. A lot of the same thing keeps coming up. So the fundamentals, right?
All right. Zorgal, what's something interesting about your role that people might not know?
That's let's see. So working in industrial, should I say, industrial environments, you have to have some basic training in how to, I guess, survive, so to speak, around all that big nasty stuff, right? So data centers might be smack in the middle of an industrial environment, so you got to know the all the protocols and how to behave, how to act, what to do. Hear certain home sirens, and because of, like you said, some of these plants actually make that refrigerant that's in the data center. So some of that stuff is not too good. So and then on some levels, we go through a lot higher levels of training on how to respond to that stuff. You have to put on the suits and the breathing air and go and do the mitigation and deal with the emergencies and stuff. But you wouldn't think that would be one of the skills that you acquire over the years, but it's just kind of you got to wear a hard hat sometimes when you're in a construction site, right? So,
Yep.
Industrial areas come with all those different requirements as well.
Absolutely. All right, Enzo, let's go up, and then we'll ask the questions of what do you think is the most important skill to get into what you do, and then your other questions are what are you listening to currently? That can be music or study or whatever, and then what kind of side projects do you do? What stuff do you work on in your free time to get better at this stuff? So 3 questions there, but they're on the screen.
My job, it's kind of still low level, so I think that the main skills I have to have is desire to growth and want to be curious about technology, and it has enthusiasm. I think that those are the key things that you need to get that job that I have. One thing that I'm doing right now, one something that I've been listening to. It's not tech related. It's actually a book I've been listening to while drive to work, back and forth, and commuting. It's called Thinking in Bets. It's a really good book that talks about percentaging and chances of things.
Okay.
I really recommend that book. And project-wise, Thinking in Bets. It's a very interesting book. I've been listening on the car when I drive. And what I have been doing as a project right now, I'm a little overwhelmed with work, but I'm starting to study for some of the AWS certifications that they offer.
Oh, nice.
And kind of seeing where to go from there.
Do you have a similar deal to like what Fisherman has, where they will pay for the certs after? Like you have to pay for it upfront,
something like that. I have to look into it. They have like a period of time before you get like certain things, like the college tuition. They pay for that. I might look into that as well. So if you get hired on, they'll pay for your college. So that's something else that I might be looking into it.
Okay, it's pretty good. Kevin, same questions.
So let's see. I'm looking down the list. The most important single skill is about learn something new all the time.
Okay.
If you can.
Keep learning.
And and one of the most important skills, I just dropped a link in both YouTube and Discord.
Okay.
Always be automating, because manual work is a bug. Is the title of his article, is manual work is a bug.
Okay.
And the mindset's great. It doesn't matter what automating is. You were saying you write a script. Of course you do. You drop it in a repo. You might never touch it again. You might end up needing it once a week for the rest of the time you're there.
Yep. I just wrote a script that is going to run on the system probably until the system finishes. It's a scrubber script.
Yeah, and you don't know what's next. You know what the next one will be, but you'll know that you will have learned something out of doing it, if nothing else. And always be automating, and you'd be surprised at what you can if you push at it.
By the
not everything, but
When you mentioned 88, Ellipses over on YouTube said that they were born in 89.
I saw. Yeah. I have teammates that are younger than my granddaughter.
Yep. I have college students that are sometimes born. Well, this is less common now. I mean, like less interesting, but I remember in the early 20 teens, I would have students that were born in after 2000. I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, now they
Yeah.
would be 25, so that's not that interesting anymore.
Yeah.
But I remember when they were like an 18-year-old student, I'm like, what? You know.
Yeah, we have an intern with us now, and he's doing great. It's like he's bouncing across different things that he's never seen. You know, he was more comfortable with bash scripts.
Mhm.
And I said, well, you need to know this, and the way to get it is Active Directory, so PowerShell it is. And he's like, okay,
I remember
let me figure out how to do it.
when you mentioned
So-
having interns. Go ahead, finish what
Yeah.
you're saying there. Sorry.
But we've got a great project for him, and the idea is the project chopped up into small pieces. So we made pieces be a lot of different things. So I hope that will really serve him.
I remember I had interns in like 2017 or 2018. This is both, I remember thinking this is both one of the high points and low points of my career. One, my time was so important that day, I couldn't go to lunch. I had to do something. But his time was only important to me in getting me lunch. So I sent my intern to go get me lunch. But I
I've had a
paid for
manager
lunch.
who said,
But to be fair, I
yeah,
paid
but
for
I've had a
lunch.
manager who said that to me is, what do you need to get this done? You want me to go get lunch?
I've actually done that
That's
as a team lead before. I've never been, like, so you
Yeah.
guys know, I've never been a manager, but I've always been, for the last, I don't know, 13 years, I've always been the team lead from a technical standpoint everywhere I've been. So, yeah, I will do that for my guys. I'd like to bring in, by the way, I don't bring in, like, sugary stuff because people will crash. I bring in, like, bagels. I think people like bagels, although I guess you could just crash on carbs, couldn't you? But anyways, it's better than sugar,
Yeah.
right? Sugar, fat pills. So, all right.
Yep.
Uh,
So
then what are you listening to, and
I'm
what are your side
listening
projects?
to- right now, I'm listening to a book also, but it's just a historical fiction set in around year 1000 in England.
Okay.
So
What's it called?
low-key, one of a series, the Ken Follett series, and this one is The Evening in the Morning,
Evening in the morning.
and it's
Okay.
a prequel to the others, so their versions are all screwed up.
Okay.
Because that's a break. Sometimes it's tech stuff for a long time, and then it's not, and sadly, sometimes it's politics, and then it's not.
Yeah.
So-
You gotta ease your way into all those different things for sure. That's
Yeah.
being a Renaissance
And
man.
side projects, I'll talk about something I did before because it may be more relevant for others, but I got this job that I'm in now almost exactly 10 years ago. And I knew, okay, one of the things I'm going to have to do is dig into databases and query it directly because that's where some of this data is. And I had never really done a lot of that because it was about, I can make a connection, I'm out.
Yep.
Go forth. But so I went and I put together for myself a project where I was going to download a set of interesting to me data. And in this case, it was the state voter registration database, the public record part.
Okay.
And I was gonna work up the insert to drop all whatever it was, 5 million rows or something into a database. And then I was going to figure out how to do some querying to get some interesting information about, I don't know, voting patterns or something. By the way, I discovered that in closed primary states where they allow you to go back and forth, but you have to be registered for one, I can put probably a 90% bet, speaking of thinking about bets, on who you'll vote for in any given election for the nationals and, if you will, for others, just by public record.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no details because it doesn't say who you vote for, but what you can get out of it is interesting. And then that applied to making me look at the database at work. But I did that with the voter data because it was what kept me interested that I could do to jumpstart. And I learned a lot. So
Interesting. To that point, by the way, I do have a data analytics section of the Discord for people. And we do put stuff up there sometimes for that very reason, for people that are interested in that kind of stuff. And one of our recent
Yep.
ones was I put all the times that HIPAA's been breached for more than 500 people
Oh.
since they started. So
you
I
have
downloaded the
that
whole thing.
much space.
Well, this was actually not that big, surprisingly, all the way back to 2009. And then there's some really good visualizations people have already done out on the interwebs, so people can test their visualizations versus everybody else's. So I thought that was kind of
Right.
fun.
There's also great big stashes of public data sets
Oh gosh,
out there.
so many. Data.gov is a huge site. And I tell people one of the reasons, and I know this because I work with NOAA, we have found consistently that interested people that are just looking through data like what you did will actually outperform scientists that are paid to do it. And I'm saying like on like
Oh,
a 20-to-1 ratio. Like Kevin on our Discord going and churning through that data probably discovered more than 20 political scientists that were paid for it. I'm not kidding you. That's like something we've literally found from the U.S. government. That's why there's 311,000 data sets on data.gov, because people that are interested do more work than people that are paid. So, anyways, it's a fun thing.
yeah. Yep.
It didn't say hippo for once. That's funny. All right, so Zorgal, what's your most important skill to get into what you do? What are you listening to currently, studying or otherwise, and what's a kind of side project that you've been working on or doing?
Yeah, so for skills, I would say, never passing up an opportunity to learn something new every day, but to teach someone is dramatically different as far as learning, and to never pass up that opportunity either. So when and you can attest to this too, Scott. I mean, if you're going to teach somebody something, you really got to know it. You got to know it on a different level.
Yep.
And so one of my mentors taught me years ago. He had just a little exercise, and you can try it too sometimes. But it's, pick up a pencil, get a sheet of paper out, and draw a butterfly. And at that moment, and you can use a whiteboard, a marker, draw a butterfly. And it's like, well, it's got legs and wings, and it's got some of those little things in the front. Like, how many does it have? How many sections is the body? How many wings? What about the wings? How many sections does the wings have? How many legs does it have? How many sections are on the legs? There's all these things you need to know to really explain it to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And by learning how to draw that butterfly, you enable yourself to learn so much more in a different way. You just start seeing things differently. So that's a skill. You don't pick that up like overnight, but over the years, it's really given me a different perspective on being in new places, that uncomfortable areas where you felt like you were out of your realm,
Mm-hmm.
But then when you sit down and you start putting the puzzle together, it's like, all right, butterfly's got two wings. We start there, How do I look at this storage system? What's those commands? Like down to basics and ground yourself, and and then once you do that kind of stuff, you can teach people a lot more comfortably. But it's that whole process that gets you in a higher place of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
As far as let's see, what was it? What am I reading? So I guess I'm a big fan of aerospace. I try to keep up with that kind of stuff. I found this really niche area of podcasting. It's
Okay.
the N2K networks. They do a Cyberwire daily. It's kind of news, and then they do T minus, which is a space daily. They add a lot of there's a threat vector. They do like something with Palo Alto Systems and
Okay.
Solar Winds, and then they have an OT section that they podcast they do. So they have this weird intersection of all these different podcasts, and I can't possibly listen to all of them. So I kind of don't diverge from that too much when I'm listening. Of course, this past year has been a lot of prologue. Just
Hanging out
listening to
in prologue.
prologue. Well, yeah, just watching videos and stuff, or listening to videos on the way back and forth from work, just especially with the security stuff. You know, re-listening to the lectures driving is kind of good exercise for me. The last interesting book I read was it's called Ignition. It's kind of the history of rocket fuels, and if you ever
wow.
if you ever get an opportunity to read it, it's very very cool. It goes back to the back before the V2, but uh, it's told it's written by a chemist who was involved in all of the different chemical testing from yeah, the guys. I mean, he's kind of snarky and sarcastic in
Yeah.
his telling of the stories, and it's just hilarious. It's kind of a nerdy comical book
Okay.
with a lot of history of.
Is it from
rocket propellants.
1972?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It is great. It's a great book.
Oh, wow.
One of my mentors told me about it. He's like, you got to read this.
That's like when I tell. This is like when I tell people about Little Brother. Like I always tell security engineers and people that want to get into Linux to go read Little Brother, and it's like because it's even if the hacking in it's not realistic, kind of like the show Mr. Robot. It's the idea that it's the mindset that you have to cultivate, and when you read that book, you see this mindset. Like the kids all know that the cameras in the school can tell their gait, so they put, and that's GAIT, and they put rocks in their shoes to change how they walk, and it can't detect them anymore. And I just thought that was brilliant because this was way before we knew that like AI could very quickly figure out who people were for other reasons. But this book's it's an older story. It's online. You can read it. It's called Little Brother. But anyways, yeah, that's cool. Ignition. Okay.
And this guy, when you've been in your industry, whatever it is, for as long as we have, you start to understand of like the interactions between different levels of the organization and different departments, and all of the kind of social groups and interactions that people have, and how they play on each other and the end product of whatever it is you do.
Okay.
Buckets of bits or whatever. So this guy tells a lot of these interaction of systems with stories of people, like how the government was involved and with spending and the components they used and how they affected people and groups, and he puts it all together in a neat way.
Interesting.
Side projects, my biggest projects have been the 2 courses, and of course at work doing this SEAM platform, doing the evaluation of that. So and that's wrapping up for me. So a lot of learning all the way around and just grinding. So yeah, security course, really good learning for me because we just touched on so many parts and pieces that I don't deal with on a normal basis. So
to Kevin's point,
to explore that some more.
Kevin mentioned social engineering because there's no patch for human stupidity. Kevin, have you heard my story about the IRS workers?
I don't think so.
So the only reason I'm going to tell you a little background on me to set the stage for this story. So and it's mainly for the timing. I got out of the Army at the end of 2003, right in December of 2003. I had done my first half of a tour in Iraq, and then I got out, and they had stop lossed me. The Army stop lossed me to send me to Iraq, and then they dropped the stop loss, so I get to go. I got to leave. Well, anyway, so I come home and I start working at a school district, and I read this paper in 2004. I read a paper, and the IRS agents had just done a test at the IRS. They had done like a pen test outside, like third party, and they were ecstatic at the results of this social media. It wasn't social media. It was just social engineering attack against the IRS agents. They were ecstatic at the output. There were 50% of the agents, only 50% of the agents, gave their passwords when asked by somebody over the phone who had in their minds convinced them that they were help desk. They were ecstatic. These were great results. And the reason is because the year before, in 2003, when they first did it, before the training, the number of IRS agents that gave their password over the phone to somebody, this was in the early 2000s, guys, was 90%. I had to swear for that. I don't normally swear, but 90% of them gave the password over. Because, by the way, guys, in the early 2000s, there was not a lot of discipline. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't give my mom my password if she called me for something. Like, I wouldn't give anybody in my family my password to Netflix. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, no, generate your own password. Like, what are we handing passwords around for? Like, no. Well, anyway, so my point in saying all that is, like, that was this interesting thing that happened right at 2003, 2004. So 2003 was the first test with IRS. 90% of them gave the password over the phone. And again, you think about that nowadays. I'd bet you that it would be like 10% in a company. And all of those people would be older. Because young people, they intrinsically know not to give their passwords to anybody. They've been on the internet since they were kids, you know? So anyways, it's kind of an issue. They had to come up with other things to get at them. Like links that take you off of your social media and then pretend that you're logging back in. That catches a lot of old people. People are like, "Oh man, I'm getting hacked," and it's not like you're not getting hacked. You put your password in the wrong fucking place. Go change your password. You can't use the same password across everywhere. Like what is this?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah. Awareness, security awareness is a big deal.
it is.
Big
It
deal
is.
in corporation.
That's actually, some of you guys
Now-
know, that's what my dissertation's technically on, is knowledge, attitude, and behavior around cybersecurity. So the knowledge
man, I'll
affects
tell
the
you-
attitude, changes
I'll
behavior.
tell you, because it's late in the stream, there's probably not a lot of people listening, but man, I failed a phishing test this year. They're getting so good with these phishing emails,
Yep.
with using AI to craft them, where it was like early in the morning. It was like 5 in the morning. I'm just getting to work. I'm going through my stuff, and it was about, it was some realm of demographic that they, because they're always building these new sub sites for you to go, and or the employee groups and all this stuff, and whatever it was, I clicked on it, just lazily clicked on it, like 5 in the morning, and it was like, oh man. And I'm pretty good with those usually. I'm usually
Corporate
pretty good
compliance training for you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I hate
I got the
I
email.
was the only person that probably did it because I wanted to see the graphics of the phishing website.
They got me probably in 2017 like that. They were like, and here's all the things that you can't wear as Halloween costumes, and I was like, ooh, what are these? And then I got in trouble.
Yeah.
That was long ago though. Like that was like. But that was me messing. I didn't realize that my company was running a campaign. Ever since I knew my company was doing campaigns, I don't click on shit anymore. I turned so many things into that. It doesn't even matter. I just turn them all in. I'm like, screw you. There you go.
I hit the button a lot too. Yeah.
Yep. It's somebody outside of my organization trying to get me to come do a seminar. Nope. They can go deal with it. So yeah. But my college, man, you guys, one of the worst things you could do is be a college professor if you don't like sitting through training. Because I literally have at least 5 trainings every 6 months that are different trainings, but like annually I have probably well over 10, maybe even approaching 15 on FERPA and HIPAA and just a ridiculous amount of things that like are administrative backends. So I had one the other day, guys, that was about how not to lie to people. And you go, what the
I
fuck
have
do you
that
mean?
shit all the time.
But the reason
I
it was
worked
it
for
was the
this
reason
job at a bank.
well, ours was because college. So when you're in sales and you're trying to get people in the colleges, by the way, all the colleges that you guys know that have closed in the last 15 years, ITT Tech, DeVry almost got closed. Any of the big private colleges that take a lot of federal funds, they deemed damn near GCU almost got it recently too. Damn near all of it is the crime of omission to them. You omitted something, or you didn't tell somebody, or they assert that you never told them something. So now it's like this ridiculous amount of stuff. But anyways, I had to take a class on how not to lie to people. I will never recruit a single person for college. I will never be on here telling you guys go to DeVry. I think DeVry is a great school. I think it's a good college. I'm not going to recruit you guys for it, and I'm definitely not going to fucking lie to you about it, right? I'll tell you, like, college is just like our courses in that you get what you put into it. Like people can play the game and not learn anything through college. I've seen people do that, but they still played the game and got whatever score they got. They just didn't learn anything, you know. But anyways, go ahead.
I get. Before this job, I was in at a bank for 14 years, and you get every like 2 or 3 weeks, you get at least one of those little, oh, it's only 20 minutes. Yes, but I've seen this story, 17 times already. Because, like you said, I didn't deal with HIPAA, but there was all the PCI, and PCI is maybe almost as crazy as HIPAA. Payment card industry compliance is nuts.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we this is a little different, and probably in the future I'll put this on the schedule for people. We had more senior people show up, so we just went to this instead of doing. If more junior people had showed up, I would have asked them questions and put them in the hot seat a little bit. But this was more of the senior guys that are part of our group. For people that are not part of Prolog, you have a lot of like industry knowledge here for people, and everything in the Discord's free, right? I've never charged you guys nothing, have I?
Man, the knowledge available, just the diversity of knowledge down in the Discord, the whole community is absolutely amazing. It's always
including some of the young guys.
Yeah.
Exactly,
It's not all old guys.
exactly. Yeah, some of the young guys are amazing. Just
Yeah, we got a lot of people. We're trying to get into the industry. We're trying to, show them the way that we talk about this stuff and the way that we do these things.
But this is good too, because we do have to do meetings. We do have to deal with people problems and managers, and I mean it's all part of the job. It's not just sitting in a dark room
Yeah.
at the terminal all day.
Yeah, the days of me just being locked in a closet and nobody bugging me are gone. Probably about 15 years ago, they were gone. But I loved them.
Yep.
I loved fucking just being a mushroom, man. You never saw me, and I just was in the data center, one of like 5 data centers we had at Lockheed back in the day. And my little, just walk around. Sometimes I'd walk outside and
I
it
had
would be night.
become, yeah, I had to become that guy, like one of the Bobs, in a previous position that said, "What would you say you do here?" But not in those exact words, because they were going to be automating things, and there was a goal to move some folks out of the northern area they were, and others not to move. And that was the corporate decision. And so, I went up to visit them, and there's a certain amount of what can we automate away that's your job. But on a personal level, it's like, stay curious about things, and do you want to be making the changes or run over by them? And, some folks who took the make the changes path, they now work in the building I do, and they change through it, and being always ready to change is important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, good guys. I'll probably drop the stream off, and then I'll hang out in the Discord for a little bit longer. But for anybody on the Discord or anybody not on the Discord, you guys are welcome to hang out down there. We talk shop, we do a bunch of these things, and we hang out and we try to get you guys in this stuff. So, all right, I will still be in the Discord, but I'm going to drop the stream. Take care, guys.